to the question, thank you, Carrie. When we shut down to the question asking, we can no longer heal, can we? We are no longer agents of change. We are now the victims of it. Do you get this idea? We have put ourselves in that position by shutting down to the open inquiry, shutting down to the curiosity, shutting down the I don't know, groundlessness, Pema calls that we mostly don't like. And so if somebody were going to ask me, well, how long do you think this is going to last? The answer is I absolutely don't know. Are you going to be okay today? I am, actually. How do I know that? I am. Because whatever then is here, I'm going to do my best in my practice from my training to be with that. And so if the room spins, then how can I be with that? If the knee hurts, then how can I be with that? And I'm learning a little more about that myself, which is I can tolerate a lot because of that training. And sometimes I tolerate too much. That's probably a habit now, which is, I can be with this. When 16 weeks in, I probably should have done something week 2. But I'm looking at that also. Like there is really right timing, right response. And I think because have some level of a developed tolerance for distress, I don't know if that's always better, right? Certainly it serves in that you don't collapse. That's good news. But also don't always step in with a response. And that's also a limitation, by the way. So, right, it doesn't mean you just sit there while you're on fire. We're not trying to be monks, are we? We're trying to be real people in real lives. So let's practice with curiosity today. See if we can't stay in open inquiry a little bit. We're going to start with something somewhat pleasant, right? That's the training. We tend to pick a thing that's at least pleasant or neutral for the inquiry. And then we're going to turn towards something that may have a slightly mild distress to it. Remember what I said now. When we are in open inquiry, we are never alone. And so what do I mean by that? Let's practice here. And so I'm going to probably be doing different things in my posture today. So do not be particularly watchful of me. One of the things is I'm going to keep my head a little more elevated, and I may not close my eyes just so I can ground. But we're just going to begin to bring that curious, open, not knowing mind. Not knowing. I don't know how this whole body is right now. We're going to begin to turn towards the body. And the way the mind actually works, by the way, is holding a whole is fairly difficult. Holding things in their related parts is a little easier. So for just a moment, we're just going to turn the lens towards the body, but we're just going to allow the little parts to shine like little tiny bright twinkly stars. We're going to see what's going on. Holding the picture, the image, the experiencing. And I'll just call out some things. When we are in anxiety, doing this practice is actually skillful, understood to be skillful means. Also, when we're losing contact, fainting, dizzy, grounding into an external object is skillful. And so I'm going to, so by the way, if you were in a body that is in distress, you would be better to point outward, attention outwards towards an external object. I'm okay in this body right here, so I'm going to point towards the body. But just know if you weren't, there was a significant anxiety or distress, you could move directly into a pleasant or neutral object. I'm going to actually stay in the body because I'm okay. See what feels most right for you. And just breathing into the body, feeling the sense of the body. So I can feel immediately the weightedness of the upper body in my seat. I can feel a soft cushion beneath. I'm just holding that lens open in curiosity, interest. It'd be nice if we could bring a little care. I'm also noticing both warmth and coolness in my hands, and that is invited more interest. They're cool in parts and also warm in parts. Bless you. Libby just had a sneeze. That would be an interesting inquiry. What are the sensations before, during, and after? I have a fairly neutral body today. I have a little headache in my upper right forehead, and that's now curious. Like, might that be in some way related? Don't know, but I will stay in inquiry. See what's most available, active, relevant. What's the word we often use is salient. Relevant in the inquiry. My eyes just closed naturally. I'm pretty curious about that. Because when I was doing that earlier, I got dizzy. Making contact, naming or describing. You can use sensation words. And if the words seem difficult, that's not most important. The knowing itself is most important. So just feel into that sensation. We try to employ words for this practice. And then I'd like you to pick a sensation, the one that seems most curious for you, if it's not too averse, which means we don't want it to be higher than a 5 on a 10-point scale. And I'm going to go right up to that little right eyebrow sensitivity there. It's not feeling distressing. You may pick a knee, a seat, the breath itself, particularly if the body is mostly overall neutral. Just rest in the breath until something may or may not become active. Bringing curiosity, interest, and care to awareness of body and body sensations, which can include the breath. So I have turned my attention towards this right brow as an example. And it's an interesting, I'm staying curious because as I have turned towards it, the work here is to simply create space and room in which to hold it. We're not trying to laser beam in there. We're not trying to change things. We're not seeking something more than information, that knowing. But as I have done that, that throbbing in my right eye has actually gone away. And I'm not establishing any causal relationship there. I'm not going because I turned my attention there, that has gone away. I'm not certain about that at all. I just know that it has lessened. And I'm just going to hold my kind attention, a gentle attention there. And if you've picked a knee, a joint, maybe another part of the body, an organ, a muscle, see if you can't just rest the breath and your attention there. And we're going to be quiet for a few minutes while you explore, investigate, and discover. One of the things that I don't usually instruct, but I'd like you to try, since we're going to be here for a moment, I'd like you to drop into that particular area of the body or that particular sense constellation. Rest there for at least 10 to 15 breaths or so. And then drop back in, would you? Back into the breathscape. See how you are in that vagal tone. Check back into the chest, the heart, the diaphragm, and the belly. Breathe in a time or two or three there. And see what that vagal tone has to tell you. It's a little bit of a mirror to the mind. And when I made that shift on purpose from that right brow to the area of the chest, and I did that particularly because I could sense some activation here in the vagal tone. I can tell my heart rate's likely up a little bit. The breath is not quite as relaxed or fluid. And I'm just taking that information in. And then with a few breaths, return to that particular area of the body. And so there really are two methods here for this kind of body inquiry. One is to do what I have said, which is to rest in the body area, collect some sense, a knowing around that, and then drop into the breath space. That's the first. And that one is fairly simple. You're toggling between But now I'd like you to try something else, if you would. Holding that area of the body. See if you can't create a space right there that also includes the breastscape. If you can get this idea, you're going to draw a bigger circle of an object, now including, for me, the brow and the breastscape. See if you can hold them both. And in fact, some people report breathing into and out from that area as a way of staying in contact with both. I like to think of this as like breathing the brow, breathing the knee, breathing the belly. The breath sensations, the vagal tone, and the sensations in that part of the body. You are capable of holding it all. And with that curiosity, with that openness, with that letting be, with that bearing witness, these are all words that reflect aspects of this practice. We're simply going to recognize how things are here. And we're going to not resist. We're not going to judge. We're not going to move into our mental preferences. Those are called fabrications. We're not going to start constructing a storyline about the experience. We're going to see if we can't stay well in contact with the sensations themselves and the breath tone. With each breath, we're seeing if we can't open, bring curiosity, care, and an essential kindness without resistance. I'd like you now to think of your own attention along with the breath as an embrace of loving kindness, an embrace of compassion. You're holding yourself, not only the sensations, not only the breath experience, but this care, essential to healing. We invite this genuine kindness and compassion. And then can you feel for yourself in this moment of vulnerability or humanness or even mild distress? And the holding is first one's attention. Making contact with sensation. Opening beyond to include the breath sensations and the vagal tone, knowing how we are. The breath will tell you everything, mirror to the soul, mirror to the mind. And then from that knowing, we will make an offer of care. What is it you most need right now? How do you offer that to yourself? You are the first and most important healer of your life. None greater. And as we know from our practice, you can offer that care, that response, that love, the good medicine, that healing in a number of ways, including visualizations. I'm just creating a little space and room in this area above the brow. I'm well connected into the heart space now. And I'm just sending a kind of warm, glowing, somewhere like a thread, really, of love and care to that part of the body. The light of awareness and the light of kindness and compassion. And then along with the visualization, you can include the phrases. May I be free from distress. That doesn't mean the sensations will go away. May I contribute to my own well-being. May I have the courage, the compassion, the kindness needed. And then we're going to, following the offerings, the nourishment, we'll just check in. Drop back into the breastscape. You might, that area of the body may or may not continue to invite inquiry. This area for me is not. I'm just coming back into the heart space, into the breathscape. And checking in. How am I right now? And depending on your circumstance, if you've had any kind of a significant body event, distress of some type, I invite a response to that question. I am all right now. And breathe that in. I'm all right now. And that doesn't mean things are perfect. It doesn't mean the body's, uh, distress-free or pain-free or, um, right? The reality of life is also here. But overall, there is more right with you than not. I'm all right now. And then just breathing, releasing. We can turn then for a little practice towards a slightly more distressing um, experience, phenomenon. And that might include an event from the past, the last day or two, might include something present in the body right now. My body's actually quite neutral or pleasant right now. I'm not going to use the body. I could easily use something in my office space here um, to invite some mild distress. I'm not going to. I don't want to open the eyes, but you could. If you got that pile somewhere, and that pile has a message called "You need to deal with me," maybe that's something. Maybe there's someone else in the house with whom you've had a recent challenge. Or you can recollect an event, mild distress. I'm going to recollect an event. And you use the mind itself to reconstruct that event for yourself. I'm recollecting my mom and her voice on the phone and my sense of her own distress. And you can use the 5 sense doors to expand and fill in the lines on that experience. And while you're imagining this event, uh, once again, continue right now just to drop in on the breathscape and into the body every couple of breaths, seeing how you are. And I could tell right away, my heart rate jumped right up, and I'm not feeling much physical, other sensations about it, but my own distress has been slightly reactivated, and I'm just aware of that. Being with that here. Staying for me right into that breathscape in the heart space. And I'm staying for at least a moment in inquiry. Open, receptive, curious. What's this? And I'm recollecting as I breathe my own voice tone, slightly distressed. Remember, we're not bringing judgments or criticism. We're not assessing. We're just inquiring. How was this? And beyond the body and the holding of the image, see if you notice any other thoughts arising. Let the thought be a thought. And one of my thoughts was, I'm recognizing that I was feeling slightly irritated by what felt like somewhat demanding. And I'm just holding that. And then breathing that. I'm not trying to get rid of the irritation. I'm not trying to get rid of her distress. I'm not trying to get rid of the scene. I'm just holding that in that curiosity. Breathing it. And staying as present to the mind-body as you can. We're not solving problems. We're not trying to find solutions. We're not trying to get out of the experience. We're trying to move into it with this available, present, curious, and open heart-mind, including the softened body. And then once again, I'm going to ask you to begin to feel for yourself whatever is happening for anyone else is not the practice right now. Feeling for yourself. Breathing into the heart space, seeing what's there. And I'm noticing self-compassion arising. It was too busy a day and too many things to get to. And that one more thing called my mother, creating a level of distress. And just feeling for myself in that situation. And then we invite the breath to be the carrier of the good medicine. We invite that self-compassion, that kindness, that forgiveness, that understanding, that care, whatever's there. We breathe it right in wherever it would be most helpful. And I'm just going to stay in the heart space with this. Applying the good medicine to myself. We can invite an imagery, once again, phrases. Along with that genuine care. I can feel for myself in my overwhelm. And what almost automatically happened is once I offered that, just as that gentle breath and embrace to myself, I could feel that for my mother. She too was in distress and overwhelm. You can continue to simply breathe in, make the offering, supplying the good medicine. to yourself. And if it so happens, you can expand that, but it usually happens naturally in its time. Nothing to rush or push. You might just stay right there with yourself. The doctor, the medicine, the nurse, all you. May I recognize my distress and feel for myself. May I offer myself what is needed. May I soak in the good, in the kindness, the care, and the compassion, offering myself the good medicine. Breathing it in. And can I feel for all those then, just like me, who feel this too? Breathing it in and then expanding and opening to include others, if that's available. Otherwise, we simply stay with ourselves, both the in-breath and the out-breath. May we all be free from pain and suffering. May we all be peaceful and at ease. And may we all remember who we really are. The healing agents of ourselves and our world. Aho. Taking your time, just feeling into the body, seeing what offers you may be able to make the physical body. So just checking in, seeing how you are, seeing how that practice informed any thoughts or feelings about that. We forget, don't we? We forget. Loading, yeah. We can get lighter when we're not so caught in ourselves.
It was good to just check into our bodies and see where that tension that we're holding is.
Yep, very important. The body is also the mirror, just like the heart space for how we are. It's good to check in on them all. And really, I don't probably mean check in, do I? I mean hold, embrace, regard, care, offer love and compassion for how we are. That curiosity, could you see it, is the door to that. If you don't place attention somewhere, you can't heal it. There is no way to heal pain you did not touch, is there? Don't we love the idea, though? Let me stay back there and somebody else go in to that burning building called my life. And the answer is that's not workable, even including healthcare, right? If you don't know anything, there's nobody else out there who's going to be the wizard. You've got to work with, be with, and in that. And in some way, I trust the patient more than I trust the doctor in the curiosity, in the knowing, not in the I like this, I don't like this, I don't want this, I only want this thing. That's just fear, right? And so we have to know that for ourselves, don't we? Because people, I work with a lot of patients, and one of the things I have to sort out with them a lot is this really your knowing, or is this your not wanting? Wow, those aren't the same. Those are, you get what I'm saying? Those are not the same. Nobody wants the chemo. Nobody wants to have the illness. Nobody wants the dizzy. Nobody, and we can mistake, if we're not careful, that not wanting as a choice. But that's actually just fear. And by the way, fear doesn't have a choice. Fear is not a choice maker. Fear is just to get away from or kill it. That's all it's got written on it. So be watchful of this. No, I really thought about it, and I don't think it's a good idea. Well, that it might be scary is true, that it might be something you didn't really want is true, that it might be exactly, if you can hold the whole choice making and yourself in it, I have a lot of confidence in that, and have watched people make really amazing decisions, as the woman did in Dose 2, the film we were talking about yesterday. She made a decision not to seek more chemo and radiation, and it was a kind of a scary decision, but she really sorted through that and decided it wasn't right, and actually came to that following another psilocybin journey, decided that no, I'm very clear that more is not better, that I'm going to let that go. And amazingly, interestingly, the story for that particular woman is that she is continues to be, a couple years later, cancer-free. Now, I don't want to set that up as oh boy, if we just do this, then magic. Yes, it is. Yes, it is magic. And it does mean healing is guaranteed from that magic. And it doesn't mean there's a cure either. So we have to be watchful, don't we, of these belief thoughts that if I just thought well enough, or if I held the practice well enough, that this would all work out the way I want. Well, it does work out. And no, it may not necessarily work out the way you want. And it did in this case, this woman doing some other fairly significant treatments with cannabis, very high doses, made her also somewhat sick, was of benefit for her. So we're going to go, I'm going to see if I can't pull this up on the share screen. We're going to go to the questions from chapter 7. I'm going to look at Victor here. I can see Victor. Victor, can you see that? Yeah, Dennis. Okay, I can see you guys. Thank you. This is chapter 7's inquiry. And we're going to stay with the sensations. We're going to ask these questions. We're going to see if we can't make them relevant to your experience today, right? Since you just had your experience. But we may not use the word aloneness here. We may just use the word feelings. So the first question in chapter 7 is, what sensations accompany the feeling of aloneness? Today, I'm going to say, what sensations accompanied the feelings that you turn towards? What sensations were they? We're just going to ask those questions of yourself. Can you find sensation words rather than pain? One of the worst mistakes we make is to just call a sensation pain. Pain is not a sensation. Actually, it is an assessment of that, often meaning unpleasant, I don't like it. Sometimes words like pressure, burning, twitching, hot, or, those kinds of things. We try as best we can to stay in feeling words that are neutral versus script words that imply good, bad, wanted, not wanted, like or don't like. And then once we know in the research that we frame a sensation as pain, you are going to resist. Everybody get that idea? And actually invite more distress. It's guaranteed. You will invite more distress. This is true in life and in the body, isn't it? And so just checking in on that. Can I stay in descriptor words? Can I invite a certain curiosity, but curiosity by its nature is neutral, isn't it? It doesn't have a valence. It's not in the wanting, not wanting. Curiosity by its nature is open and receptive. So that's where the curiosity can genuinely serve us in our practice every day. When you're not in curiosity, you will also know, because that sense of openness, expandedness, holding is not there. It's rejecting, refusing, or clinging. It feels like struggle and distress. Solid sense, right? I was noticing that as I was not wanting to turn to the right today, as I was just investigating, I could feel this. Is there going to be a problem here? And just taking it one little rotation, which I get to do. I don't want to spin out of my chair, and noticing, oh, well, I can be here and be okay. Do I even need or want to go further? Just an inquiry. I don't know. I did, but that was from just grounding here. Is that right or wrong? It's just inquiry. It's just inquiry. I could have easily turned my head and then started to spin as I did in the evening, and that just wasn't there. By the way, I did have a certain confidence just from that slow rotation. I'm going to be all right here. And that is something we can also invite. Sensations, can we bring the awareness of sensations to the body, particularly in moments of mild distress? The practice for most people when we're doing this kind of work is actually to drop into pleasant sensations first. A feeling of connection, a feeling of pleasantness, a feeling of availability, something we can be curious about and actually open easily into. That's actually the best practice ground. You should be doing that several times a day. Just finding something with the eye, the ear, the smells, the touch that, let me just breathe this in for several breaths using the descriptors. Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a fragrance, maybe it's a, right, that we stay with it. We know in soaking in the good research that it takes about 20 seconds. Yeah. And boy, is that a long time. 20 seconds of being with in order to actually be able to put it in the memory bank so that you can access it again. Wow, like that's a little bit of time. Now we know, by the way, that if you're able to recollect with some kind of vividness, some kind of embodiment, a pleasant event, you did that. You looked at that sunset for that long. You looked into the beloved eyes for that long. You held that person for that long. You had to have, because you can call it up. Well, don't we want to add to the bank of those experiences so that we can keep using them as our good medicine and as our resource? You can't do that if you're just focusing on what isn't okay, what isn't working. That's the negativity bias, right? And we're going to do that naturally anyway. So we, on purpose, with intention, employ turning towards the pleasant at least several times a day to offer that balance. We will do that. How good will that be for you? Natural good medicine. Natural good medicine. Do that for yourself. Drop in, check in, breathe, stay in contact, and then name experience. Actually name it silently or out loud. They both count. Out loud's actually better, says the research. What sensations and body experience do you notice in times when you are resting in solitude? Remember in chapter 7, she was distinguishing this idea of aloneness, which is a dramatic separation from solitude, which is resting within. Resting within what? Resting within one's own goodness and the goodness all around. It's very different. There is ease there. There is enoughness there, right? There is no sense of this me, you over there at all. And so the difference is actually quite distinct. Solitude also includes, besides a sense of that spaciousness, a stillness, essential stillness in it, that there's something quieted in the mind that can hold that solitude, even in a crowded house, they say, right? Even in a crowded house. So checking in on that, that was one of the distinctions that chapter 7 made. You have your own definitions about those things. Anybody have any other thoughts about, for you, the difference between loneliness and solitude? It's a choice, Libby says. It's a choice. What do you think she means? It's a choice. Yeah. Once you're in loneliness, interestingly, is often not chosen. It is defaulted. It's actually Yes, opportunity to wake up, even then in the disconnect, to connect. Well, here's an interesting thing. The minute you're connected to your loneliness, you're not lonely. Isn't that crazy? You have to feed that with the believed thoughts of separation, of wanting and not wanting. You have to feed loneliness. It is not just happening. It is not our nature. It is not the nature of this world for things to be independent, separate, and disconnected. It's not true. It is true that we can perceive that based on what? Usually not getting what we want, called I want you here now. I want you to say this. I want you to act like that. I want you to be like this. I want me to be like this. I want me to have said that. I want me to write all of these stories, narratives about what we think we need. And so loneliness is a constructed mind state. Solitude is also, isn't it? I can choose quiet. I can choose space. I can choose this as well. And we can choose to even hold loneliness in a way that will no longer keep us separated and then allow us to make an essential offer called, let me walk with me around a little bit today, instead of going off into tasking or busyness or further disconnect, right? Which is, I think, what we can often do. So mind states, a very important thing to recognize. Can you make a list of the micro connections? Remember, little moments of connect, that smell, that you're not going to hold it for 20 seconds. That's why we call them micros. You're just going to recognize, see if you can't take a breath with them. 1 to 3 breaths is actually very likely sufficient to make contact. You are not likely going to have real access to that either. That's okay, like little snacks, right? You could think of them like that, little nutritious snacks throughout the day, those micro connections. And how does it affect your experience of loneliness versus feeling connected or belonging? What's the impact of that? Can you do that again this week? Because I don't think most people did that. Make contact with those little micro connections, 1 to 3 breaths on your way. Just see how it nourishes and supplies and what it offers you, which will not be that feeling of disconnect and loneliness. What new opportunities for connection did you create and discover during COVID, particularly? I asked a question about that. Are you continuing those connections? If not, why not? I already know the answer to this, by the way. I'm asking you to know something about it. We created a lot of new opportunities because the way we normally connected wasn't available. And then we stopped, and then we didn't go back to our old ones either. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We stopped doing, let me check in by phone, let me check in by Zoom, let me check in by email. We stopped it because we started to relax a little bit into our situation, but we didn't, most of us, find the other ways back to the connection. We're still not quite getting back out there in the same way. And of course, what do we know? It has a consequence, doesn't it? Our loneliness grows from that lack of connection. Our loneliness grows. So we're going to have to figure out, what are we going to do with that? How are we going to keep inviting not only those micro connections in our daily life, but those more intimate and important connections with those we love in our everyday life? 5, what short message do you want to make to those you love and care about this week? Write it. Remember to practice sharing it several times a day. What short message did you want to bring with you to offer to others that you cared about in this week? If you haven't done that, it's just another opportunity. I'm thinking of you would be just a very lovely, simple one, wouldn't it? You could just text that to about 4,000 people. Then do yourself the justice of calling them to mind. Right, yourself and them. But what short message could we make? I'm thinking of you. 6, do you notice that when you're feeling disconnected, that you are in fact already separate, already judgmental, already contracted, and bringing that mind to the party? Now, there's no way to have a good time at that party. Doesn't matter how many balloons are there. Doesn't matter how many people telling you what they think, right? Because we're already some distance from ourselves. What do we know the work is? Well, it's not as simple as snap out of it. I wish it were. And if you're not deep into the well, maybe it could, like, come on, right? Get out of this. It's just going to be mind, so that you can be curious, open, and receptive to what's actually there. Now, it doesn't mean it's your favorite party. It doesn't mean all your favorite people are there, but the connections that are there are now available to you, right? We often go to parties already separated. I used party, I don't think by accident, right? Because a lot of people bring some social anxiety to groups of people, including what am I wearing? What are they wearing? What am I supposed to bring? Blah, 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 blah. You know, the social demands that we can all impose. So be watchful of that. Can I show up with that simple wish to bring oneself and invite some connection? And notice the mind that already showed up, because that's the one that's got a hold of you now. See if you can offer someone who you see a wish. We've already kind of reviewed that. How does it feel to make the offer? What do you notice about the other in that offering, thinking about you as a simple offering? 8, how does the reality of the mycelium web that was also in the discussion in the film Dose 2 affect the way you think about the world and others in it? How does the reality that everything is connected to everything? And when we remember that, where would aloneness live? You couldn't, could you? You couldn't do it. Then every flower, every cloud, every breeze, right? Every bee becomes a nourishment when we recognize this. And we forget that web, which is inherently who we are, inherently who we are. You are the tree next to you. It isn't a separate thing. You're breathing it in. It's breathing you as well. How do we remember that throughout our day? How do you remember that? I suggested on Saturday we step outside and get the reminder, right? Because in the little room, on the little screen, with the little thoughts, it's very easy to forget, isn't it? Because now I got the room, I imagine that is, right, real, fixed. Myself becomes more, the screen becomes more so, and I think we all have to break out of that. And I think nature, the sky, the air, the sun, those element practices that we did the other day are an essential part of the refuge for that. So we've suggested stepping outside each day and seeing how it affects your day, doing it first thing or soon after, first thing in the morning. See what happens. Where do you notice the reality that the sharing goes both ways? We just talked about that, which is not only that the tree is, you're holding the tree in awareness, but the tree is also holding you. And earlier in the book, Sharon discussed that those plant studies, that people who were really intentioning care had a very different plant. They weren't the ones watering them, by the way. Everybody was away from the, it wasn't like I'm watering. Nobody was watering. People were just bringing attention, bringing interest, bringing curiosity, bringing regard to the plant. They were not tending in the I'm watering and taking care of. And those plants did way better. And we know it's true. We know it's true. It's always true, isn't it? It'll always be better, do better, feel better. So the sharing goes both ways. What are you feeling like? I'm just the one going doing the thing, the caring, it's not coming back. And so what are you missing then? If it's always true, what you might be missing is that it's not going the way you wanted. Right? That the caring is not happening the way you would most enjoy, like, or want. My brother is my number one practice for this because he never calls me. Only rarely. By the way, I know he loves me. I know he does. And I know he loves Libby. And I know he loves Al. It's not even a question. It's not there. And this guy just doesn't get on the phone. And he isn't gonna, probably. Can I know that that's shared and exchanged anyway? I can. I can. And so I reach out to him. And I don't even wait for him to reach back out to me. Right? Doesn't even matter. It's not the point. And this is often where we go, no, it's not equal. It's not, because they're not doing the thing I like. And they well may not be doing the thing you most like, but that's not the definition of love. By the way, that's not its definition. Love does not come in a form, does it? At all. No, it does not. It's not like love comes as words, love comes as physical contact, love comes as niceties, love comes as candies and bows and flowers and nice words or compliments. It does not. That's not its definition. It's much bigger than all of that. And so if you don't sense it, maybe the work is to expand your definition. Might be to expand your definition. And there's somebody right now in our Sangha, I'm not going to say anything about names right now, but whose mother's dying. And this was a complicated relationship based on addiction. And this person said to me on the phone, "Oh my God, I've just realized how much my mother loved me." What's that? That's a different heart mind, is what that is. Because now, guess what? Now the alcoholism doesn't matter. Now it's not the point anymore. Now that person is bigger, isn't she? She carried me. She took care of me. She did her best. She did. She did, right? It matters. And so can we. That's love. That's love. Be watchful of what you think you're supposed to get. That's almost always. Well, I'll tell you, it always is for me, out of some deficiency. I got to get it like this. It's got to happen like that. You got to acknowledge this. You know, that, blah, 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 blah. You can feel the blah, right? The hole we're digging and drilling in it. Be watchful, because by the way, that's not the other, that's you and your fear operating. And it's useful to know that, because then we can make a decision. Like Libby said, you have a choice now. Here's some weekly practices that we went over. Who are you counting on? Who counts on you? Maybe that's love. Just the fact that you plugged in the coffee pot, just the fact that you woke up and we're still there going, how are you? Need anything today? Maybe that's love. And if you recognize that as love, then how do you respond? How do you respond then? If you know that's love, what do you do? How do you do it? And that you pay attention to that, because we often blow by those in those 1 to 3 breaths. That was a nice one, right on the way. And maybe we need to take a little more time and a little more breath there. Do you notice where you go back to sleep, where you deaden and shut down to the truth of those connections? Every day. Every day you do it. And I do it too. And can we wake up by just sensing that disconnect? Our busyness is a disconnect. We just get wrapped around the then and then and then and then, gotta, and then I gotta, and I gotta some more, and I gotta. You're disconnected. You no longer feel your body. You no longer see others as beings. You see them as tasks or task solutions. Not sufficient, because then we have lost our humanness and theirs as well. How do you wake up? The very recognizing. I don't even know where my feet are. I don't even know where the sun is. I don't even know what the weather is. Well, these are all just nice little, I better be nice to drop in and figure it out. Step back outside, stomp your feet on the ground, clap your hands, wake up. Like, here I am, back in this body. And then you can be back in your life. And then you step outside. I love this question. This was on page 144. How can you be God with skin on? I love that. That was from an old story that a young person told. It's in there. How can you be God with skin on? And that just means be in your own body. Be present, right? And then you will choose from that open-heartedness. It'll come somewhat naturally. If you're with you, you can be with others. If you are not with you, there is no possibility. What is the most important thing of all for you to remember when you feel disconnected and separate? Try reminding and reciting whatever your wisdom is about that each day. What's the thing you could do when you remember? Well, how to awaken? Well, you already have. You just want to put a little tiny frame around it so you can bring it into the next moment, right? That's the key. How do I bring me, all of me, and all of my goodness into the next moment? Okay, chapter 7 and the practices that we did today. I'm going to look at chat here before we go. I am in touch and feeling a caring presence. Wonderful, Margie. That is you. Good that you're in contact with that. Kelly, sometimes it's because of actual conditions like being excluded by others. No, not actually. Sorry, I know. Don't we want to use that? Nope. It doesn't mean you're not being excluded. I didn't want to say that. You might actually be excluded. You're being excluded means you bought into that, actually. Somebody else's fear just ignited yours, is what happened there, right? Somebody else's fear, that's how you get excluded, right? Somebody goes, not you. And the only reason we push anything away or separate from it is what? Fear. Isn't that interesting? Fear. Not because you're not good enough, not because that only invites, let me help you up, right? If somebody's struggling, you just want to pick them up. You don't go, ugh, for you. You go, ugh, because something about that other is threatening for you. And that's the reason. Is that a reason that you can feel lonely? No. You have to join that. You have to buy into the not good enough. You have to judge them or you or both to get to that. Now, if you remember, that's just fear over there. Then the other thing you can do is invite some kind of presence. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to clap and go, yay, you're now here either, right? Because fear can propagates itself. And yes, teens in particular, kids in particular, out of their wanting just what they know, and it's a very small pool, right? It takes college and beyond to grow that thing, right? Go, I just want other girls with blonde hair, and I just want other girls who play soccer, and I just want other girls who wear Nikes, and I just, right, that is fear. That's fear. We don't teach it well, and we don't teach solutions to it very well. And does it contribute to aloneness? Yes, for a teen, because they don't have sufficient mind, do they? They don't. They are caught in the swarm of fear. And yes, we do need to help them. I agree with you there, Kelly, completely. But is it the fault of the rejecting others? No. And yes, teens need extra support and help around that completely. I agree. But I don't want any of us buying into that aloneness is because of that guy. No. And yes, we all need help. Being in silence reconnects. Yes, it does. That's that solitude and opens all the sense doors to what's available in and around us. Robin says, my son and I had COVID together. We spent the day after day connecting. Boy, isn't it true? You can use everything, including right, needing rest and needing recovery. Dennis, COVID gave us an opportunity to examine what creates our loneliness. Yes, it did, Dennis. That's 100%, doesn't it? Because we often didn't know how to go do the other things now, because we were used to doing the Sangha in the room. We were used to doing we're just now climbing out of that. Both the weather is a support for us, I think, as well as our own sense of disconnect or aloneness, and good for us when that can work for you. Doesn't mean it can always work. That's okay too. I sound like I'm in an echo chamber because I have earbuds in, and I have earbuds in because people were saying they couldn't hear me during the meditation. I probably don't need them now though, so maybe be a little bit better, maybe. Okay, so we have our practices cut out for us, don't we? Can you drop in, recognize your own moments, stay curious, open, and receptive to them, and watch for that sense of connectedness versus that sense of separation? And then we have to keep asking that question: what are the conditions that I'm bringing that are contributing to this sense of disconnect and separation? In my mother's case, it was my own busyness, and then my own irritation, because that was one more thing I didn't have time to do. Had nothing to do with my mother, really. It had to do with, one more thing I can't do. The causes and conditions that have led us to this moment are myriad, and we have the opportunity to create the conditions within ourselves to open our hearts every single breath. Yes, it is. They are myriad. And we want to, circumstances are myriad. The condition of heart mind is somewhat predictable.
is somewhat predictable, actually. It's not 10,000 different conditions of heart mind. It is the one. You are in contraction. You are in fear. You are. And the circumstances that might trigger that are infinite. But we, in our recognition of that, can change everything, can't we? Because the minute you know something in me just went dead, just closed down, just went into judgment, just right. The minute you know that, you have that agency for healing. So my dizziness is all gone. How lucky am I? I'm sure that's not only because of me, but because of you. So thank you all so much for that. We are going to go now to chapter 8, which is With the Light of Clarity is the name of that chapter 8. With the Light of Clarity. I will be writing some questions for that, but I want us to practice really chapter 7 some more, really. I feel like we didn't really grab that chapter, that sense of connectedness, that sense of presence, that sense of being in one's own body. I think we missed out on that a little bit. It's an easy practice to forget. So I want us to go back to that. Bringing that curiosity, that openness, and your own loving presence. So let's do that. I will look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday. We'll be here the next 2 Saturdays before I go into retreat, and then we'll be on Zoom for, I think, at least 2 Saturdays. Yeah. And then we'll be having our Mindful All Day on July 29th. July 29th at Pete's Dome, we will be doing Mindful All Day. So get that in your calendar so that you can join us. It's a beautiful dome, and you will enjoy your time and practice there. Also, we will be doing St. Andrews on July 11th. I'll be reminding over the next week and a half, but that's coming up. So be collecting items or your pennies, whichever works better for you, so that we can contribute to that. I think maybe Greg will be here on Thursday at 7. Maybe on Saturday, Greg, I don't know if you're going to be around. It'd be probably nice to talk about shower blessings.
Sure. I will be there. That's my plan. Also, I don't know what the status of t-shirts. Did it go out to everybody?
No, it did not. It got cut off. I lost part of the newsletter. It didn't get saved correctly. So how about if I get, I might need to work with you on that, Greg, because I don't know the colors. I think it's black, blue, and white.
That's it. Just 3 colors.
Just 3 colors, black, blue, and white. And I think what I'll do is just put out a separate constant contact then with
the
that
spreadsheet. There was a spreadsheet, and
didn't see that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get that.
Darn. Okay, I'll send it out again.
Yeah, which I did not get that.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I don't know that it was you, Greg. So don't. I didn't get it, but that doesn't mean you didn't send it.
No, it might be that I just didn't attach it. I don't know. So
okay, if you would, then I'll try to get that out on Constant Contact so we can get orders in.
Okay.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you for that quick discussion, because that'll be something we can accomplish today.
Okay.
Now that I'm not dizzy, it's good news. All right, everyone. Blessings to you all. Thank you for your practice, your presence, and your connection. Let's look for those micro and macro all each day this week. And love to you all. See you soon.